Eladar had always dreamed of working in a big city, in a company where life moved faster than her own heartbeat. When she finally landed a secretarial position at Donovan Enterprises, her excitement was off the charts. The night before her first day, she meticulously packed her bag, double-checking every pen and notebook. Picturing herself in a sleek office building with gleaming glass walls and floors polished to perfection, she'd read about Donovan Enterprises countless times. The stories of Miles Donovan, the visionary billionaire CEO, had inspired her since she was a student. She just never imagined her first encounter with him would be so completely unexpected. The morning air was crisp as Ella arrived. The lobby was a masterpiece of modern architecture, a soaring space with glass walls reflecting sunlight in dazzling patterns. People bustled around, carrying folders, typing on laptops, or speaking urgently into their phones. Her heart raced as she approached the reception desk, where the manager greeted her with a warm smile. "Welcome, Ella. Don't worry, everything will be smooth today," he said. She nodded, taking a deep breath to calm her fluttering nerves. She was ready for challenges, but nothing could have prepared her for the man she was about to meet and misinterpret. As she walked to her assigned desk, she noticed a man crouched near a row of computers, adjusting wires. He was dressed casually in black jeans and a simple shirt, his laptop bag lying nearby. He didn't carry himself like a CEO, at least not in her eyes. To her, he looked like the IT technician everyone mentioned when she asked about technical assistance. She hesitated for a moment before stepping closer. "Excuse me," she said politely, "could you help me set up my computer? I'm new, and I'm still learning the system." The man looked up slowly. His eyes were piercing, yet kind, intelligent, and calm. There was something about his presence that made her pause, but she quickly dismissed it, assuming all tech workers were this focused. He nodded, brushing off his hands. "Of course, let's see what the problem is," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. As he worked on her computer, Ella talked nervously, explaining the login issues she'd been having. He listened silently, his fingers moving with a precision and confidence that came from knowing exactly what he was doing. After a few minutes, her computer screen lit up perfectly. "There, you should be all set," he said with a faint smile. Ella's eyes widened in gratitude. "Oh, thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done without you." He just shrugged. "No problem at all. Let me know if you need help again." He picked up his bag and walked away, blending into the crowd. Ella watched him go, a strange flutter in her chest she couldn't explain. She thought it was just a simple interaction with a kind IT worker, but then, the whispers began. "That's Miles Donovan," someone said quietly nearby. "The CEO. That's impossible." Ella spun around, but the man had already disappeared. Her mind raced. Could it really have been him? The billionaire, the face on magazine covers. How could he possibly be crouching near computers in casual clothes, helping a new secretary with a login problem? Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment and disbelief. She had just spoken to the most powerful man in the company without a clue. Meanwhile, Miles Donovan had noticed her from the moment she walked in. There was something refreshing about her nervous, yes, but genuine. She hadn't bowed or fawned over him. She'd treated him like any other person, and that intrigued him. He remembered the way she tilted her head when she explained the problem, the quick, uncertain glances that revealed her personality. For the first time in years, he found himself captivated not by someone trying to impress him, but by someone entirely unaware of his power. Her innocence, her authenticity, it was magnetic. Throughout the morning, Miles found his thoughts drifting back to the new secretary. He wondered if she'd realized who he was. He recalled her slight stumble when she handed him a pen, the subtle way her hands shook when she tried to type, her soft, warm smile. For a man used to controlling everything, this encounter with Ella was unpredictable and strangely exciting. He felt a pull toward her he hadn't felt for anyone in years. Ella, on the other hand, tried to focus on her work, but she couldn't shake the image of the man with the kind eyes and precise fingers. Every few minutes, she thought she saw him in the hallways, but whenever she looked again, he was gone. She wondered if she'd imagined the whole thing. But the whispers from her coworkers had planted a seed of realization that shook her. The thought of speaking to the CEO himself both thrilled and terrified her. As the day progressed, small encounters continued. Miles, intrigued by her natural charm, found ways to appear near her workspace without revealing his identity. He'd ask casual questions about office equipment or reports, just to draw her into conversation. He didn't want to overwhelm her, but he couldn't resist seeing her reaction, hearing her laugh, noticing the spark of curiosity in her eyes. Ella began to notice him more, feeling a strange connection she couldn't name, sensing that there was something extraordinary about him. By lunchtime, the office had calmed down, but the tension and anticipation between them had quietly built. Miles considered telling her the truth, but he hesitated. Part of him wanted to see her natural reactions, untouched by the knowledge of his status. He wanted to know if her interest was genuine. That afternoon, when a minor issue arose with the central server, Miles casually offered to help again, appearing as the IT guy she still thought he was. Ella laughed nervously, feeling that familiar flutter in her chest. "You again?" she asked, a small smile on her lips. "I thought you were busy elsewhere." He smiled faintly. "I make time for those who need it," he replied, his calm voice carrying an undertone that made her heart skip a beat. She didn't know it, but her every unguarded reaction was drawing him in deeper. By the end of the day, as Ella packed her bag, she found herself thinking about him more than she wanted to admit. Miles, meanwhile, watched from his office window as she left, feeling a strange emptiness that only her presence seemed to fill. He realized this accidental meeting, this simple mistake of identity, had sparked something far greater than either of them could have imagined. He wondered if tomorrow would bring another chance to see her smile. That night, Ella lay in bed, replaying the day, wondering about the man who was so kind and skilled, yet so ordinary. She didn't know his true identity, but she couldn't shake the feeling that he was significant. Miles, sitting in his high-rise penthouse, thought of her with a fascination that both alarmed and thrilled him. He realized that in a world of pretense and flattery, Ella's honesty had captured his attention completely. And so, what began as a simple misunderstanding slowly evolved into the beginning of an unexpected love story, one that neither of them could have foreseen. Yet both would soon find him. The morning sunlight filtered through the tall glass windows of Donovan Enterprises, casting long golden streaks across the polished floors. Ella Dar walked into the lobby with a mixture of nervous excitement and determination, clutching her handbag as she mentally reviewed her tasks for the day. After her first encounter with the mysterious IT guy, her mind was still buzzing, replaying every word, every gesture, and every subtle smile that had unsettled her more than she wanted to admit. She tried to focus on the practical, filing schedules, learning the software, and understanding office procedures, but even as she moved down the hallway toward her desk, she found herself glancing repeatedly at the entrance, half expecting him to appear again. And appear he did. Miles Donovan, dressed casually but with a subtle elegance, emerged from the shadow of a glass-paneled corridor. Today, he wore dark chinos and a crisp white shirt with sleeves rolled up just enough to reveal the lean strength of his forearms. He carried a tablet in one hand, blending in seamlessly among the employees who barely noticed him. Yet Ella's heart skipped a beat when she saw him. She immediately recognized him from yesterday, though she still had no idea of his true identity. Something about the way he moved, confident but unobtrusive, had a magnetic pull she couldn't ignore. Miles noticed her glance and offered a faint smile. It wasn't wide, not yet, but it held a quiet warmth that made her stomach flutter. "Good morning," he said casually. Ella swallowed and nodded, trying to appear composed. "Good morning," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. The day began in a flurry of activity. Ella navigated her desk work, but her mind kept drifting to the man who seemed both ordinary and extraordinary. She noticed him moving through the office periodically, always observing from a subtle distance, sometimes offering a quiet suggestion. She couldn't explain why she felt drawn to him, why his mere presence seemed to change the rhythm of her day. By mid-morning, a small crisis arose. A senior manager's laptop crashed, threatening an important presentation. Panic spread among the staff. Ella, trying to remain calm, stepped forward and suggested checking a backup server she'd noticed. Before they could decide, Miles appeared at her side. "Let's see what we can do," he said, his voice calm and measured. His hands moved over the laptop with practiced ease, guiding Ella in restoring the files. Within minutes, the presentation was recovered, and the staff breathed a collective sigh of relief. Ella had never expected such direct involvement from the man she believed to be a simple IT worker, yet his quiet leadership earned her immediate respect. As the day wore on, Miles found subtle ways to interact with her. He asked about the filing system and her impressions of the office culture, all under the guise of helping a new employee. Ella responded with polite curiosity, unaware she was speaking to the billionaire CEO. Lunchtime brought a moment of unexpected intimacy. Ella chose a quiet corner of the cafeteria when she felt a shadow fall over her table. Looking up, she saw Miles holding a tray. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Ella hesitated for only a second before gesturing to the seat opposite her. As they ate, they talked about trivial things, yet an invisible tension grew. He made her laugh softly, and she caught herself staring at him more than she realized. Miles, meanwhile, found her honesty and natural charm irresistible. For a man accustomed to flattery, this simple connection was intoxicating. The afternoon brought more opportunities for interaction. A minor software glitch disrupted the workflow, and Miles casually stepped in to offer assistance, again blending in while observing Ella as she calmly guided a few panicked coworkers. He was impressed not only by her intelligence but also by her composure. As the workday drew to a close, Ella's thoughts were a jumble of curiosity, admiration, and an inexplicable attraction. Miles watched her from a distance, noting the way her hair fell around her face, the quiet intelligence in her eyes. He felt a pull he hadn't anticipated. Evening came, and the office emptied. Ella packed her bag, still replaying the day's events. The IT guy had again proven himself helpful, calm, and charming. She didn't know why her thoughts kept returning to his steady gaze and subtle smile. Miles, returning to his penthouse, reflected on the day. He realized that Elidar was unlike anyone he had ever met, genuine, intelligent, and completely unaware of his true identity. The accidental meeting and small interactions were beginning to weave a bond between them, an invisible thread that neither could ignore. The following morning, Ella entered Donovan Enterprises, secretly hoping to see the man who had captured her attention. She had barely settled at her desk when she noticed him again, casually leaning against a doorway. Today, he wore dark trousers and a soft gray sweater, but the effortless authority in his posture made him impossible to ignore. Ella's heart thudded. Miles, noticing her subtle glances, smiled faintly to himself. He had found a strange delight in watching her navigate the office. It was a rare combination of intelligence, humility, and charm that intrigued him. Mid-morning brought a challenge. A sudden software update caused several systems to malfunction, creating chaos. Ella stepped forward and suggested a work. Before anyone could act, Miles appeared at her side, pretending to offer casual advice once more. Together, they guided the team, restoring order. Ella was unaware that Miles was observing the way her eyes lit up when she realized the solution was effective. The subtle way she communicated with her coworkers, and the calm confidence she exuded. He felt a growing admiration for her, an admiration that had begun to shift toward something deeper. He realized he wanted more than brief encounters. Lunch offered another private moment. Ella had decided to sit in the company's small rooftop garden. She was arranging her salad when she sensed someone approaching. Glancing up, she saw Miles carrying a tray. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Ella nodded. They ate together, listening to the distant hum of the city. Miles began a casual conversation about the company's new initiatives, asking for her opinions. She was surprised by how interested he seemed in her thoughts. Her laughter came easily, and Miles found himself captivated by it. The afternoon continued with more subtle interactions. Miles found excuses to ask Ella's opinion on minor matters, never revealing the true weight of his position. Ella, sensing there was something different about him, felt an unexplainable curiosity growing. As the day drew to a close, a high-profile client was visiting. Miles decided to test Ella subtly. He approached her desk with a small stack of documents, pretending to be a junior consultant. "Could you help me organize these for the client meeting?" he asked. Ella agreed and began sorting the papers. Miles observed silently, noting her efficiency and attention to detail. Later that evening, as Ella left the building, she found herself reflecting on the day's interactions. Each encounter with the man she thought was a simple worker had left an impression that refused to fade. Miles, in his penthouse, watched the city lights and thought of Ella. He realized their accidental meeting had sparked something far more profound than either could have anticipated. He was drawn to her authenticity and intelligence. He knew he wanted to see her again, to deepen this connection. The days that followed continued this delicate dance. Ella and Miles shared moments of subtle connection, fleeting glances, small smiles, and brief conversations that lingered in memory. Each encounter deepened their mutual fascination. Amidst this growing tension, colleagues began to notice their closeness, sparking whispers and curiosity. Miles, aware of the watchful eyes, grew protective in subtle ways, shielding her from scrutiny. One evening, a sudden rainstorm trapped them in the office together. Miles suggested they wait in the lounge, offering a warm drink. Sitting across from each other, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations became more personal. Miles asked about her dreams, her family, and her childhood. Ella, feeling unexpectedly comfortable, shared stories with laughter and occasional shyness. The connection between them deepened, built on trust, curiosity, and intimacy. As the storm raged outside, Ella noticed the depth in his gaze. Something about him was different. She sensed intelligence, kindness, and a subtle vulnerability, though she couldn't name it. Miles, meanwhile, was captivated by her authenticity, unaffected by pretense. They both felt a quiet tension, a magnetic pull that neither could ignore. By the time the rain subsided, their bond had strengthened. Ella returned home with thoughts of the mysterious man occupying her mind, wondering who he truly was. Miles, in his penthouse, realized their connection had evolved beyond casual interest. It had become something profound, a delicate thread of attraction, respect, and intrigue, slowly weaving a story neither expected but both were powerless to resist. The morning sun streamed through the tall glass windows of Donovan Enterprises, illuminating the sleek, polished floors and the quiet hum of activity. Elidar walked in with a determined stride, her thoughts still tangled with the memories of the past few days. She couldn't stop thinking about the IT guy who had captivated her attention from their very first meeting. Every interaction, every fleeting glance, and every small moment had left an imprint she couldn't ignore. She tried to focus on her work, reminding herself that she was a professional now, but her heart betrayed her, fluttering each time she sensed his presence nearby. Miles Donovan, in contrast, had spent the early morning reviewing company reports, but found his mind continually wandering back to Ella. He realized that their simple interactions had begun to affect him in ways he had not anticipated. Her innocence, her intelligence, and her genuine nature had penetrated the barriers he had built over years of wealth and power. For a man who controlled almost everything in his world, this growing fascination was both thrilling and unsettling. Today, he resolved to learn more about her, not through any manipulation, but by simply observing and interacting in subtle ways. By mid-morning, a minor office crisis erupted. A critical client requested last-minute changes to a major project, throwing the department into disarray. Employees rushed about, panicked and frustrated, as the deadline loomed. Ella, despite being new, noticed small details that could resolve the issue. She approached the project team and calmly offered her observations. Miles, standing a few steps away, observed quietly, impressed by her quick thinking and composure. He approached her casually, pretending to seek guidance, and together they implemented the changes seamlessly. He admired her natural leadership, the way she maintained her composure under pressure, and the quiet confidence she exuded. It was clear to him that she possessed a rare combination of intelligence, intuition, and charm. Lunchtime provided another chance for connection. Ella chose the small rooftop garden, hoping for a quiet meal. She was surprised when Miles appeared, carrying a tray. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his tone casual, yet carrying a subtle warmth that made her heart race. As they ate, conversation flowed naturally. Miles asked about her hobbies and her impressions of the city. Ella, feeling unexpectedly comfortable, shared anecdotes about her family and her dreams. The hours passed quickly, and both found themselves enjoying the simplicity of their conversation. After lunch, another issue arose. A senior executive's laptop malfunctioned, causing delays. Ella suggested a solution she had read about, and Miles quietly intervened, again in the guise of an ordinary worker, guiding the team to fix the problem. The synergy between them was undeniable, though Ella remained oblivious to his true identity. She was drawn to his calm intelligence and his ability to lead without demanding attention. Miles, meanwhile, felt a growing desire to see her more, to learn about her thoughts, and to explore the depth of her character. By late afternoon, a sudden storm hit the city. Ella found herself trapped in the office lobby, trying to avoid the pouring rain. Miles appeared, casually offering his umbrella with a faint smile. "You'll get soaked if you go out now," he said softly. She accepted, and they walked side by side through the drizzle. For a moment, the outside world faded, leaving only the two of them in a shared bubble of quiet intimacy. They reached her car, and Ella hesitated, unsure what to say. Miles looked at her with a gentle expression. "I hope the storm hasn't ruined your day too much," he said. Ella smiled. "Not at all. Thanks for everything today." That evening, Ella reflected on the day's events. Each encounter with the man she believed to be a simple worker had left her heart racing. She couldn't explain why she felt so drawn to him. Miles, meanwhile, sat in his penthouse, gazing out over the city lights. He thought about her laughter, her intelligence, and the effortless way she moved through the office. The accidental meeting had evolved into something far more profound, an invisible thread of attraction that neither could ignore. Days turned into weeks, and the subtle dance continued. Then came the night of the company gala. Ella, attending, as part of the administrative team, found herself standing awkwardly in the grand hall. Miles, looking sharp in formal attire, approached her with a calm smile. "You look stunning," he said quietly, causing her cheeks to flush. Throughout the evening, he stayed close, guiding her through introductions and subtly protecting her from the overwhelming crowd. A quiet intimacy grew between them, an unspoken understanding that connected them. As the gala ended, Miles offered to walk Ella to her car. They stepped outside into the cool night air. The city lights reflected on the wet streets, casting a soft glow. Miles, sensing her nervousness, reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. The touch sent a shiver down her spine. "Ella," he whispered, his voice low and steady, "there's something I want to tell you. Someday, when the time is right." She drove away, her mind racing, her heart full of questions she couldn't answer. The next morning, Ella arrived at the office feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. Her mind kept replaying Miles's mysterious words. Miles, for his part, observed her from a distance, his fascination growing more intense. A mid-morning crisis again tested their partnership, with Miles pretending to be a tech consultant to quietly assist Ella as she proposed a solution. Their synergy was growing more apparent to everyone. At lunch, they walked to a nearby cafe, their conversation flowing effortlessly from work to personal stories and dreams. Ella found herself laughing freely, feeling a rare comfort in his presence. Later that afternoon, a jealous colleague whispered rumors about them. Ella, unaware of the context, felt confused and hurt. Miles noticed the change in her demeanor and stepped in, addressing the situation with tact and discretion, protecting her from the drama. As the workday ended, Miles invited her for a walk in the building's garden. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. "Ella," he said gently, "you have a way of seeing things others often miss. It's rare, and it's remarkable." She looked at him, surprised, unsure how to interpret the depth in his tone. The tension between them continued to build with each small gesture, a helping hand, a shared joke, a casual conversation. One evening, an impromptu team dinner was held. Miles arrived shortly after Ella, immediately putting her at ease. As the evening progressed, a sudden rainstorm forced them to wait under the building's awning. Miles offered his coat to shield her from the rain, a small but intimate gesture that made her heart flutter. They stood close, the rain creating a private, quiet world around them. "Ella," he admitted quietly, "there's something about you. Something I can't ignore." The storm passed, but the intimacy remained, affecting every glance and conversation that followed. One afternoon, a major client demanded immediate revisions, forcing Ella to work late. Miles appeared with 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," he said. Together, they worked through the issues, their teamwork seamless. As the clock ticked past midnight, they both realized, in a quiet, unspoken way, that their connection had evolved beyond curiosity. The next evening, as Ella left the office, Miles intercepted her near the parking area. "Wait," he said, his tone soft yet urgent. She paused. "I know this might be sudden, but I need you to know. You mattered to me," he confessed, his voice low and steady. Ella's heart raced. She looked into his eyes and saw a sincerity and warmth she had not fully realized before. Before she could respond, he offered a reassuring smile. "I don't expect an answer now. Just know how I feel." As she drove home, she replayed the moment endlessly, her emotions a whirlwind of joy, confusion, and anticipation. Miles, returning to his penthouse, knew that his connection with Ella had evolved into something deep and powerful. He knew revealing the truth of his identity would test their bond, but he also knew he could no longer ignore the intensity of his feelings. The stage was set for a story of love, secrets, and emotional revelations. Their accidental meeting had grown into a complex web of attraction, pulling them toward each other and threatening to unravel the carefully constructed barriers they both held so tightly. The morning after Miles' confession lingered in Ella's mind like a vivid dream she couldn't wake from. The memory of his calm, low voice, the warmth in his eyes, and the subtle intensity in his words haunted her as she walked through the office doors. She tried to focus on her work, to sort the files on her desk, and answer the constant stream of phone calls, but each time she glanced up, her heart skipped a beat, anticipating his presence. Miles, on the other hand, had spent the morning reviewing reports, but his thoughts were entirely on her. The memory of stopping her in the parking area, telling her she mattered to him, replayed over and over. He knew she had felt the pull between them, that she was thinking about him, and yet he still hadn't revealed the full truth. Part of him wanted to tell her everything right away, but he knew the timing had to be perfect. He had to protect the delicate balance of their connection while navigating the subtle office politics that surrounded them. By mid-morning, a crisis erupted that forced them to interact closely. A senior client called unexpectedly, demanding last-minute changes to a critical presentation. The entire office was thrown into chaos. Ella.com, yet determined, organized the team and suggested practical solutions. Miles, ever observant, stepped in seamlessly, offering guidance without revealing his true authority. Together, they worked with a quiet efficiency that left their colleagues impressed, though no one could quite explain the unusual synergy between them. Ella noticed the way Miles seemed to anticipate her thoughts, completing the small steps she hadn't yet finished, and how he subtly protected her from unnecessary attention. A rush of gratitude and admiration washed over her, mixed with the faint confusion of realizing her feelings were growing stronger every day. She didn't know why, but she felt herself drawn to him in a way that went far beyond admiration or curiosity. Lunch brought a brief respite, and Miles suggested they step out to a nearby cafe. Ella, surprised but secretly pleased, agreed. The cafe was quiet, filled with soft chatter and the rich aroma of coffee. Miles guided her to a table by the window, a small, intimate corner that allowed them to speak freely. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, moving from work topics to personal stories, family memories, and subtle hints about their dreams and aspirations. Ella laughed freely, feeling a rare ease in his presence. Miles, in turn, was completely captivated by the honesty, intelligence, and warmth in her voice. As they walked back to the office, a sudden rainstorm began, catching the city completely off guard. They ducked under a shared umbrella, walking closely together through the narrow streets. Miles, sensing her nervousness about getting wet, kept the umbrella tilted toward her. Ella felt the subtle pressure of his hand brushing against hers. Neither of them spoke for a moment, but the tension between them grew palpable. Ella could feel her heart pounding, a mix of excitement and fear. She was acutely aware of his presence, of the warmth radiating from him, and of the quiet pull drawing them closer. Back at the office, the afternoon brought an unexpected complication. A colleague, jealous of the attention Miles had been giving Ella, began spreading rumors and creating subtle tension in the workplace. Ella felt a sudden unease, unsure of what to make of the situation. Miles noticed immediately and stepped in discreetly, redirecting conversations, ensuring she remained respected, and subtly shielding her from unnecessary scrutiny. Ella couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude and trust for him, even though she still didn't know the truth about who he really was. The days that followed continued with this delicate balance of growing tension and subtle romance. Miles found small ways to be near her, leaving little notes on her desk, asking her opinions on minor office matters, and sharing moments of quiet conversation. Ella, sensing the growing intimacy, felt a mixture of excitement, curiosity, and fear. She noticed the way he seemed to understand her, the way he anticipated her needs, and the subtle warmth he reserved only for her. Their connection was deepening, unspoken, creating an invisible thread that pulled them together more with every passing day. One evening, Ella was working late when a minor fire alarm went off, forcing everyone to evacuate. Miles appeared almost immediately, walking with her through the empty corridors toward the building exit. The office was quiet, except for the faint echoes of alarms and their footsteps. They reached the rooftop terrace, where rain was still falling lightly from the storm earlier. Miles handed her a blanket he had brought from his office, and as she wrapped it around herself, she felt the closeness between them intensify. In that quiet, rain-drenched moment, Miles allowed himself to speak more openly. "Ella," he said softly, "there's something I've wanted to tell you, something important, but I need to know you're ready." Ella looked at him, her heart racing, caught between curiosity and fear. I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely audible. Miles smiled faintly, brushing a strand of wet hair from her face. "It's okay," he said gently. "One day, I'll tell you everything. For now, just know that I care, and I'll always be here for you." The tension between them had grown to an almost unbearable point, yet neither crossed the line, respecting the invisible boundaries while allowing the attraction to simmer. Ella returned home that night, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion, longing, and anticipation. She couldn't explain why she felt such a magnetic pull toward him, why his words lingered in her mind, or why the thought of being near him made her heart race uncontrollably. The following week, an unexpected situation added another layer of complication. A client demanded that Ella assist directly with an important project, requiring her to spend extra hours in the office. Miles, aware of her workload, insisted on staying late as well to help, citing his technical expertise. This meant hours of close proximity, late-night conversations, shared meals, and subtle touches, everything that intensified the romantic tension. They worked side by side, the office quiet except for the soft hum of computers and their occasional shared laughter. During one of these late nights, Miles accidentally brushed Ella's hand while reaching for a file. Both froze for a heartbeat, their eyes locking. Ella felt a rush of heat to her cheeks, and Miles felt a strange ache he couldn't ignore. The moment stretched, unspoken emotions filling the air. He knew he was so close to confessing everything, yet something held him back, a fear of overwhelming her, of breaking the delicate balance they had built. Ella, meanwhile, felt the invisible thread of attraction tugging at her heart, stronger than ever, though she had yet to understand the full depth of her feelings. The next day brought another complication: office gossip. A few colleagues had begun to speculate about the closeness between Ella and Miles. Whispers, subtle glances, and small rumors began to circulate, adding stress and tension. Ella felt self-conscious, unsure if she should confront him or just ignore it. Miles, noticing her discomfort, approached her quietly in the hallway. "Ignore them," he said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "What matters is what we know, not what they think." Ella looked at him, grateful, and felt a wave of warmth and trust that only deepened her feelings for him. As the week progressed, the romantic tension continued to escalate. Miles found more ways to spend time with her without revealing his true identity, teasing her gently, asking personal questions, and subtly protecting her from office challenges. Ella, caught in this whirlwind of emotions, found herself thinking about him constantly: his calm confidence, his quiet warmth, and the moments when he seemed to understand her completely without words. Finally, one evening, a dramatic turn occurred. A sudden power outage trapped them in the office, forcing them to stay together until the issue was resolved. With the office dark, except for the emergency lights, Miles guided Ella to a quiet lounge area. They sat close together, the faint glow highlighting the tension and attraction between them. Miles looked at her with an intensity that stole her breath, and finally allowed a small confession to slip. "Ella, I want you to know that you read the most important person in my life right now," he whispered, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. Ella, overwhelmed, felt tears prick her eyes, unable to speak. The moment hung between them, filled with longing, vulnerability, and the promise of something deeper yet unspoken. The night ended with both of them leaving the office silently, hearts pounding, minds racing. Miles returned home, thinking about the delicate thread connecting them, the invisible bond that had grown stronger through shared moments. subtle touches, and quiet confessions. Ella returned home, replaying every word, every gesture, and every glance, feeling the intensity of emotions she had never experienced. The morning sun broke over Donovan Enterprises, casting a golden light across the bustling office. Ella Dar walked in, her mind still buzzing from the night before. The stolen words, the tender glances, and that undeniable tension with Miles. She couldn't shake the memory of being trapped in that dark lounge during the power outage. His quiet confession, the intensity in his gaze, and the intoxicating closeness they had shared, it was all replaying in her head on a loop. Something fundamental inside her had shifted. What started as simple curiosity about the quiet tech worker had blossomed into something much deeper, a longing she couldn't ignore. Meanwhile, Miles hadn't slept a wink. Every hour of the night his thoughts were consumed by her, by the delicate, almost fragile bond forming between them, and the heavy secret he was carrying. He knew he couldn't keep up the charade of being just another tech guy. Ella deserved the truth. But he was terrified. How would this truth affect their budding relationship? Could she ever trust him after he'd unknowingly deceived her? Could their fragile connection possibly survive the revelation that he was her boss, the billionaire CEO of the entire company? He had to be careful. Everything he was starting to feel, this love he hadn't expected, was hanging in the balance. By mid-morning, their personal turmoil was interrupted by a sudden office emergency. A major client needed a last-minute revision to a critical proposal, and it required immediate attention. The pressure was on. Ella, ever the professional, remained calm and focused. She swiftly organized the necessary documents and started delegating tasks to the team. And just as he always did, Miles stepped in to help. He guided the team with a quiet authority, but his main focus was subtly keeping Ella's workload manageable, protecting her from the chaos. They moved in perfect synchronization, a well-oiled machine. The bond between them grew stronger with every shared decision, every quiet, knowing glance across the room. In the middle of the flurry, Miles noticed a flicker of hesitation in Elah's expression as she sorted through a stack of papers. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his voice a low murmur, just for her. As he spoke, he let his hand brush lightly against hers. The contact was brief, but it sent a jolt of electricity through her. Ella looked up at him, surprised by the intimacy of the touch, her heart starting to race. "Yes, just focused," she whispered, but her mind was anything but calm. She couldn't stop thinking about him, his comforting presence, his warmth, and the mysterious depth that always seemed to surround him. By lunchtime, Miles knew he couldn't wait any longer. He needed to give her a hint, something to prepare her for the truth he was about to reveal. He invited her to the company rooftop garden, a quiet, private sanctuary where they had shared so many subtle moments before. Ella arrived, her stomach in knots, a jumble of excitement and nerves churning inside her. Miles greeted her with a faint smile, and for the first time, she noticed a subtle difference in his demeanor. It was something more personal, more sincere than she'd ever seen. "I wanted to talk to you," Miles began, his tone calm but thick with emotion. "About us, and about who I really am." Ella's heart skipped a beat. She had always sensed there was more to him than he let on, and now, it seemed she was finally about to learn the truth. Miles took a deep breath, his eyes locked on hers. "Ella, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not just a tech worker. I'm the CEO of this company. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I didn't want to overwhelm you. I wanted you to know me as a person first, not as a title or a position." Ella just stared at him, shock and confusion washing over her in waves. Her mind raced, trying to process the impossible revelation. The man she had admired, laughed with, and trusted, was Miles Donovan, the billionaire she had unknowingly been working for all this time. Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly, her voice a mixture of hurt and raw curiosity. Miles reached out, taking her hand gently in his. "Because I didn't want my position to define our connection. I wanted it to be real, honest, and built on who we are, not who I am in the eyes of the world." Ella looked deep into his eyes and saw nothing but sincerity. Nothing but undeniable truth. Slowly, the confusion began to melt away, replaced by understanding. The tension in her chest started to ease. Over the next few days, their relationship transformed. With the secrets finally gone, they could openly express their feelings. In front of their colleagues, Miles made sure their interactions remained strictly professional. But in private, they shared moments of intimacy, laughter, and a love that was growing deeper by the day. Those subtle touches, quick glances, and shared meals now carried the full weight of mutual understanding and affection. Of course, office life is never simple. A few observant colleagues started to notice the change in their dynamic. Whispers began to circulate, with rumors speculating about the CEO's unusual closeness with his secretary. Miles, ever protective, addressed the situation discreetly, ensuring that Elah was always treated with comfort and respect. Ella, for her part, began to embrace her role in the company with a newfound confidence. She was proud not just of her work, but of the incredible trust and partnership she shared with Miles. One evening, Miles invited Ella to a private dinner at his penthouse. It was a gesture that both excited and intimidated her. As they sat together, overlooking the glittering city skyline, Miles reached for her hand across the table. "Ella, I know our journey hasn't been ordinary, but I want to spend my life with you. Not just in these stolen moments, not just in the office, but always." Tears pricked at the corners of Ella's eyes. She had felt this connection growing from the very beginning, through accidental meetings, shared projects, and quiet confidences. And now, to hear it acknowledged, honored, and cherished like this, it was everything. "I feel the same, Miles," she whispered, her voice steady despite the wild flutter in her heart. "I've felt this since the beginning." A smile of pure relief and joy spread across Miles's face. He leaned closer, brushing a soft, tender kiss across her forehead, silent promise of love, protection, and partnership. Ella rested her head on his shoulder, the city lights twinkling below like a million tiny stars, and felt a sense of belonging she had never known before. The following weeks were filled with the warmth of this newfound love. They navigated the complexities of office life together, supporting each other, laughing, and occasionally teasing, all while maintaining a perfect professional front. Miles made certain that Ella was recognized for her contributions, that her talents were respected by everyone, and that their love remained their own private, cherished bond. Ella, in turn, embraced her feelings fully, trusting him completely and reveling in the simple joy of being loved by someone who saw her for exactly who she was. The story of Miles Donovan and Ella Dar culminated one evening in a quiet, rain-soaked moment that felt strangely reminiscent of their first real intimacy in the dark lounge. They stood together on the rooftop terrace, the city shimmering below as a light rain fell around them. Miles took her hands in his, looking deeply into her eyes. "Ella, I've loved you from the moment we met, Evan, when you thought I was someone else. I don't want to go another day without you in my life." Ella smiled through happy tears, the final remnants of tension dissolving into the rainy night. "I love you too, Miles, I always have." They embraced, the rain drenching them, the city glowing behind them like a movie backdrop. In that perfect moment, the story that began with a simple mistake, the confusion of a billionaire for a tech worker, found its perfect resolution in love, trust, and the absolute certainty that they were meant for each other. Weeks later, Donovan Enterprises was thriving under Miles's leadership and Ella's invaluable contributions. Their relationship, once a delicate, secret thread woven through the fabric of the office, became a source of quiet strength, joy, and inspiration. Colleagues eventually noticed their unwavering closeness, but they respected the bond, knowing it was built on a foundation of honesty, mutual respect, and genuine love. And so, what began as a case of mistaken identity, an accidental connection, and a series of subtle office moments, evolved into a profound and beautiful love story. It was a story of trust, patience, and the extraordinary magic that can happen when two hearts recognize each other, even in the most unexpected of circumstances. They had crossed the boundaries of misunderstanding and secrecy, emerging stronger, united, and ready to face the world together.